So anyway, it gives me great pleasure to have a special SBTS extra. It's a time kiln, the time kiln latest. Maybe current events have caught up with us just before we recorded this, obviously with a little bit of an announcement from the council. And we're going to find out from like firsthand from Sir Billy Wood what's the latest. Billy, first of all, thanks ever so much for coming and doing this.
You're more than welcome.
Really, real pleasure. I'm sure lots of people have got questions and worries and things that have kind of come up since the announcement that we had planning permission.
Yep.
Happened. First of all, welcome Malcolm, Ian, Johnny Wills, Adam Smith, and Mr. Gasson for coming on. I would have liked it if a few more had come on, but we can't have everything, and hopefully we get as many questions answered today as possible. So so if you don't mind, I'll start.
Sure, of course.
Yeah, so one of the things, well, there's a couple of things on my mind. First thing was that, you know, as I was saying, you know, trying to talk to you at the time at the during the planning meeting, like what had changed from the council saying, you know, we ain't having it, we want green spaces, you know, we can't have the land, to all of a sudden we're getting unanimous planning permission going through. And I mean, I suppose my point being is if it isn't going to happen, if the council are just going to, what's our long-term goal with even going through with this application?
Well, the fact is, look, planning is a bit of a separate issue. I've got to be careful what I say, because obviously there could be legal ramifications for the council going forward. There's stuff that's going on in the background that I can't touch on, but as you know, I'll try and say as much as I possibly can to you guys, and always will. But the fact of the matter is, the planning process and the way planning is done is should be and is separate to the council cabinet's decisions on things and stuff. So the planning was heard on its merit of being a planning application for the site and obviously for the housing on the pilot field. Now, for months and months, well, actually years, every month we've been pushed back, and this was all while we were still in negotiation, positive negotiation, and reassurance, and just kind of pushing us down the line of Tilekiln, I should say. And it kept getting pushed back. But we still had a planning application in. A lot of money spent on the planning application as well. And funny enough, after they come out publicly with the "we're not selling Tilekiln," which, by the way, we've never tried to buy Tilekiln. It was never being purchased. Then suddenly we're on the next planning meeting, so there was no hold up anymore. Everything was fine for us to be heard. So we wanted to be heard. We felt it was right that the plans were heard, and proven to be just in what we're trying to do. So nothing changed, Chris, to the question, what's changed with the council? And I think today's press release, which is a bit of something or nothing as well from reading that, nothing's changed. But I think if anyone who was there or listened to it back and heard the comments from the councillors that were on the committee, making, you know, voting yes or no on it, and heard the fors and against, heard some of the comments, the opposing comments, I should say, and I don't think they've done anyone justice. I think they've done us a lot of service, the opposers. I just think they had to be heard, and I think it kind of highlighted a little bit how important and we'll talk about the little bits of capacity and what have you, but the importance of a new site for our town, really. And I think that had to be heard, and I think it was a good day for the club and also for the town, just to, whether they kind of put into a box of planning and this and that and the other, right, whatever. The comments proved to me that a lot of councils aren't idiots, and they actually understand the need for this site, and that's why unanimously it was voted for.
Yeah, but I mean, if you knew it wasn't going to go through, which is my point, really, if we knew if it isn't going to be the case that we can go there and all right, we don't own the land, but they don't want us to build on it.
Anything's possible, Chris. So,
just because obviously I'm seeing another statement where they're saying they reiterate it that it's not going to happen,
and they're going to, but like I said, there's a lot going on in the background that I have to be very, very careful not to talk about. But we as a club still believe the Tilekiln site and the project and the stadium and all that we can deliver should happen, and there's a process for that to take place. Now, you can't force anyone to sell you land, but we're not asking for Tilekiln to be sold. I think the reasons why they don't want it to happen are a little bit deeper than green space, just from the conversations I've had prior and after the yes, the unanimous yes on planning. I think people just got to be a bit more clear and a bit more honest. And I think that's the biggest issue. I think is honesty. Is people have got to not say one thing to one and one thing to another. You either want this to happen and be part of it, and show your support, or you come out and be blatantly obvious and say you don't want to be part of it. And I think some of the comments about locals don't want it, well, everyone knew in this town that we were going for plan on this. Like,
if I can just be asked to be clear a little bit here, because obviously I'm from Kent and that type of thing, but so I've missed out on a little bit. I pick up from social media that the council has said yes, we can go ahead and build on there, and now Chris is saying something has come out today where they're saying no, we've changed our mind, or no.
Out. So the council, the leadership in the council come out and said prior to the planning meeting that they wouldn't sell. They said sell, but that's never been the case. Just to make everyone clear, the case would have been that the pilot field land would have been sold for housing that would have financed a leased Tilekiln. So the Tilekiln site would have been leased to Hastings United Football Club.
Okay.
And we would have built on that site that would have been a long-term lease, like 99 plus year lease, the standard over a period of time. They came out. So we've been fighting it. Like, why aren't we being heard? Why does our plan keep getting pushed back? We went out publicly and said, look, we're kind of getting a bit sick and tired that it keeps getting pushed back. We just want our plan applications to be heard. On that, the council then came out 3 weeks later to say, we don't want this to happen, contrary to the last 6 years pushing the club towards Tilekiln. But planning is a separate process. So we're already in the process of the planning application. We're at the door of it. We could have just given up, which I'm pretty expect that's what they expected us to do. But we said, no, we're not going to give up. We're going to be heard. And we've gone to be heard. And it got a unanimous approval by the planning committee. So, which makes a little bit of a mockery of the earlier decision, but it's a process we felt we had to do to be able to at least fight our corner on this as such.
Right, one more question and you won't hear from me again, right? Second question is the capacity, and obviously the 1,950. Now, seeing as the growth of the side, we're not 300-400 a week anymore. We're getting regular. We're getting over 3,000 now. And by the time that this ground would be a look to start building it, it could be even more. And surely it doesn't make any financial sense in the very least to build an under well, under what we would be getting capacity, you'd be losing money first off.
Yeah.
And also, surely it's not for where we want to be. We shouldn't be looking at that base level at all now. Yeah, maybe 6 years ago.
Yeah.
But there must be some way. I mean, I think that's where you're going to lose a lot of people on that bit. You know what I mean? I mean,
Okay, I'm going to give an argument on it. Number one, let's be honest, I'm never going to be at this club unless we're ambitious and trying to get into National League. Simple as. That's why I'm here. I'm not here to play Ishman Prem football, even though we've got to go and do the job next year. So, on argument's sake, we get promoted now. Yeah. We can't play in National League South next year. Just want you all to be aware at the pilot field. The ground is C graded. It's not National League South level. There's a lot of work that we would need to do to make it National League South level. Now, as you know, as a club, we're ambitious. So if we're in a position where we've got to do what we've got to do to play National League South or whatever, we'll do it because that's who we are. But just want you all to be clear, that's where we're at the moment. So when people talk about the new ground stagnating the football club, your current ground is at that level too, regardless of the capacity. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. Not
knowing, Billy, honestly, not knowing what different levels need in terms of stadium.
No, totally. And obviously that would never been a thing that would have come up. So I appreciate kind of letting everyone know that, because that's a little fear of mine at the moment anyway, is that, come on, guys, do you think we're going into Prem to make up the numbers? Of course we're not. We want to give it the best shot we possibly can to keep this train rolling. Like we're exciting times for the club. We need to keep pushing. So going back to the capacity of the new ground, obviously, when the plans were put together and submitted, the club was at a certain point. It wasn't where it is now. Everyone's aware of that. And I even said that at the meeting as well, because it was brought up. But Billy, you're getting great attendances. It was one of the opposers said, well, they've had 3 gates over that amount in the last season, so why would they build to that amount? And so that was brought up, and George made a really valid point online as well. Well, you might want to increase the stadium capacity, but it's got to go through a planning approval to be done. Now, this stadium is nowhere near at the moment the first fault going in the ground. There's just not. So it's an outline planning application. Now there's going to be amendments to that as time kicks in. For example, we know full well that, say for example, we do go and win the Prem this year, and the council are now fine and we can do it. Before we put a fork in the ground, we've got to be honest and go, well, 1950 relegates us. We can't do that as a football club. So we would have to make sure the amendment was made. With the plans, it's fine. So the way the new stadium will be built and how it be built, us going up, kind of like what Maidstone have had to do, Malk, as you know, like that back stand.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Build a stadium for what the capacity that it can get used to, and then you go back in a little while later and say, we can't survive like this, and your town needs it, and you just get bigger and bigger. Maidstone done exactly the same, Chris. It's start off small and build, it's as you go along.
But with us, if we, for example, are National League South, National League, then we've got to be mindful of that fact, and the way it's the materials and the way these modern stadiums are built now. The amendments our end are quite easy, and it would have to go through a planning approval, so not as significant as what we've just had to go through, because that, by the way, is the toughest thing I've ever done in my life. It's horrible, and I didn't enjoy it at all. But I won't allow, Darren won't allow, and Peter won't allow. This isn't us just trying to move somewhere to get it done and then sit at Ishman Prem level, because our ambition as a football club, I think, has probably changed in 3 years. Maybe 3 years ago, the ambition was to be a successful Ishman Prem side. I don't know, right? I can't comment because I wasn't here. But I think I would look foolish, and so would Darren and Peter now, from backing my vision, if we didn't do what we needed to do. And I would have the supporters' backs on that capacity issue all the way, because I'm not step 3 football is not enough for this town or this football club. And I think the facilities unlock so much more potential as well, that why should we rest or sit at one level and stay there forever? Because this club can't do it. And even if we're looking at Isham Prem next year, which we are, and we're looking to be competitive in it, we don't go up next year, like God forbid, but no, it's not guaranteed. We might not even get in the playoffs. You just never know with football. We might struggle.
Can I ask Billy? Hello, Billy.
Yeah, hi John, you're right.
Guys, can I just ask, what if we do get into the playoffs and get promotion next season? Yeah. Because the ground won't be built for, I don't know what the time frame is, but you're talking of a couple of years.
Yeah, at least a couple more seasons, at least.
So are you saying that if we get promoted, our ground's not good enough anyway, so there's nothing we can do to it to bring it to a grade B, because the capacity's there?
Look, anything can be done. And believe me, John, like if we go up, we're not defaulting on the level that we're at. We're not doing that. So if we go up, and we have to cut our cloth accordingly to make sure that we can play at that level. But I think it would be silly for me not to bring that up, based on the fact that new ground's getting hammered for the same reason, if you know what I mean. So as it stands, we are the ground grade level that we're at is what we're at. And we'd have to do a few things to get the next level.
So there could be, if we won promotion, we can get it to a grade B and we're fine.
Yeah, we could do it. I'd say fine. It would be a fun.
Yeah, I know, but obviously we're there with the capacity already. I suppose that's what I was going to answer. Who does the gradings? Because who has put it up to grade C at the moment? Because I was thinking, I'm sure I read somewhere where grade B ground got the capacity for grade A.
No, unfortunately we're not. So I probably could pull it up while we're talking. So we had a downgrade in COVID. It got graded. Let me see if I can find it. It's always nice to have ground grading.
I'll put a bit of interlude music on at this point.
No, that's all right. No, but
hey, Billy, why are you doing that? Again, going back to what I was talking about with the capacity, surely in a year or so's time, if the way that things have been improving, it is madness to start at 1950.
Yeah, of course, 100%. Of course it is. So
that will change. That will change.
Of course, like we wouldn't start building at 1950 if we're looking to play south. Like I think, obviously, we were hoping this would have been heard in 2020, right? It's now 2022. But a lot's changed in 2 years. But the fact that we still need a facility hasn't. That's not changed. And I think we wanted the project to be heard on its merit, and it was heard on its merit. Now look, I know it's easy to say trust me, but everything we promised and delivered in being competitive, it would go completely against the grain if the club didn't carry on down that right road. It would break my heart if we had to stop at this level, because it kills what we're doing. So have no fear in the fact that we will not put the first shovel in the ground unless we know we can keep progressing up the leagues. Like me, Darren and Peter have all talked about the holy grail of the Football League. Like that's been talked about a lot. So don't think we're just looking to move and, we've done it. We've got a ground now and everyone should be happy because we've got a new facility. Because no, like who wants to be in a new facility that they can't progress under?
Can I ask?
I'm done now. Don't worry. No more from me.
That's fine. Just so you know, hold on, John, just on your point, ground grading took place 2 years ago, and we were given the award of a C grade.
For what reason? Does it say?
Just based on the facilities that we've got, and where we're at. Just based on everything from spectator facilities to dressing room facilities.
So it's just a bit shabby, is it?
Shabby chic, John.
Shabby chic, yeah.
Vintage, yeah.
Yeah, so it's it's I'm supposed to resolve any margin any deadline for achieving as great as that. Yeah, we just needed, I'll just tell you what we needed to do. Yeah, it's just showing its age. A lot of cosmetic work is needed around the grounds. Just things that we had to do. For example, I had to get no defence that's behind. So you got the barrier. No, at the back end, the bank end, you've got that fence that got put in. Stuff like that had to be put in to get to the C grade, because you used to have that mesh fence around it. So we would have been downgraded to D. But a few things that we did that cost, I think, in excess of £21,000 that year, kept us at a C level. So we'd have to see what we need to do to go B.
Yeah, what do you think we need to do to go B, Billy?
George, I'll be honest, I'm not an expert in that, so I would have to look at the B level and see what we haven't got, and then work it from there, which I probably would do anyway. Me and Dane will probably do when he gets back from his nice month holiday that he's on at the moment.
And this, I'm just still a bit mystified with this 1950, really, because I was kind of trying to think in my mind, really, why are we going for 1950? And I was thinking there's two reasons. One, there's not enough money. And if there's not enough money now, there's not going to be enough money in 2 years of upkeeping the ground. Two, because we wanted to satisfy what the council wanted, to say that in that area we're going to put a stadium. And they were the only two reasons that came to me, because otherwise it just, to me, it makes no sense that we build a new stadium at a C grade. When the league we're playing in next season, we need to be able to be promoted. We need to be B grade.
No, I agree, but you got to remember when this went in, and you also got to remember
but that doesn't matter.
I was at that time, so I agree, John. John, you know I agree, right? There's no denying that. But when this went in, the club was getting average attendances around 600, 400 to 600 people were coming to watch the club, and it was sitting at step 4. And ultimately, I don't know what the ambition was to even be a national. I don't even know if there was any ambition to be a National League club at the time, right? Now, things have changed, and we have got bigger crowds, and which as you know, I'm proud of, and I shout about every day. So let's not get it wrong. I'm really happy about growth and where we're going as a club. Now, it was done at that level based on the fact that the way those modern grounds can be built and grown, like the Maidstone one, where you can add bits to, if and when needed, they could go and get the application in, which is just an addition rather than a massive planning app. It's a request to increase the stadium size. It's not as contextual of what we've just done. It can be added to as they go, if they went up. Now with us, if we're going in, and for example, we need to build a 3,000, 4,000 capacity stadium, that's what we're going to do, because we'll get, based on the fact that the facility, you got to remember that the biggest questions was the facility needed for the town? Would it be taking anything away from the town? Would it be taking anything away from the locals? Is it going to be a problem for the locals? Parking, all these things have already been answered now in that planning meeting, right? So the value of it is there. So a lot of the hard questions have been answered and actually been voted for. So the addition to the capacity issue is just us continually working with the traffic and the highway staff and making sure that works. And we're putting on the one question that was brought up in the thing: if your crowds keep getting bigger and they end up to be 3,000-4,000 people, will you put on more coaches? And the answer was yes. So they are aware that we are ambitious and we want to grow. So it's already been said, and it's in the notes and in the meeting, that we would look to increase the capacity of this stadium if and when needed. Now, if and when needed is immediate, that's when it's needed.
We don't need more coaches. We've got Pete Heritage. What I was going to ask is, I listened to some of those words from the questions that you fielded from the councillors. Now, what we really need then is a written assurance that they will back this extension. Because I know it sounds with these new stadiums like it's just some Lego extension, but what I'm thinking is if we get to that point in a couple of years or whenever, when we're saying, right, we need this ground to be bigger, then we've got no say that the council won't object to that. So we need, before it goes ahead, a written assurance that they say, yes, we will agree to that. Otherwise, we'll be stuck at this level for the foreseeable future.
Forever.
Yeah.
Forever.
And is that in place?
What's in place are the conditions of the new stadium, right? So we have to meet certain criteria for it to even happen. I think the biggest thing right now, John, is the conversations we're going to have, whether voluntary or based on what's going on in the background at the moment with the council, because everyone saw the statement today. There's a little bit of hills being dug in by the new lead. Maybe a bit of embarrassment, maybe, I don't know, but we'll work that out. I think within those conversations and within that context, this is a massive issue, and it's a big issue for the supporters. So I consider myself in touch with you lot. Like, I'm not out of touch with the support. Oh, I hope not. You tell me if I am. If I am, tell me. But to be ambitious and to do what we need to do, we know what we need. And there's no point winning step 3 every year.
Yeah. No, because as well, you know, it's going to affect what players we will retain, what players we will buy if they're stuck at somewhere where you can't be promoted. And that's why I think it's got to be essential that is negotiated into any deal to build a ground.
I think you've got to look at it like, for example, when clubs have the big jump from National League to Football League, right? And suddenly XYZ's got to be done. How quick the success. I think what the biggest thing for me is understanding a successful football club in any town, how valuable it is to that town, right? So Hastings United climbing the leagues, being in the National South, being in the National League, potentially being in League 2 or whatever, the amount it puts Hastings on the map as a town. So I think it'd be foolish. Look, we're not just relying on it, but I think it'd be foolish for any council or leader council at that time, or anyone who's been elected in at that time, or whenever, to really try and step in the football club's way. And that's the stuff that we should really be pushing, is rather than fighting about 1950, when you full well know the owners and your chief exec want to play National League football, and we'll do everything we can to make sure of that. And you can only base me on since I walked in September 2019. The biggest issue we've got to fight at the moment as a club, and United as a club, is the council at the moment standing in the way of this sort of facility. Now,
I think to just put it a different way, is that the council standing in the way of a football club providing facilities for a town.
Yeah.
You're saying providing facilities for a football club.
Right, man.
I think that's what the council need to look at, is whether a football club is providing facilities for a town. And that's how Maidstone have come round, if you see what I mean. Yes, they built their stadium. Yes, they've gone up. They've done well out of building facilities for a football club, but then facilities are also there for the town. And the town use it. And I think that's how Hastings Council have got to look at it, is Hastings United Football Club are building facilities for Hastings United Football Club, but also for the town. And everyone will be able to come and use them facilities, the 3G pitches, 4G, whatever they are, 5G, whatever they are there. and provide facilities for everybody within that town to be able to use.
Just quickly, right? So, yes, I hear that, Malcolm. But if the council was saying no, and they're saying we develop the pilot fields, firstly, has there been any conversations with the council?
Nothing at
Okay,
all.
so,
And what makes me laugh with that as well, the thing they're pushing is this levelling up fund, which saying they want us to be part of. Well, they're not even, from what we hear, they're not even going for it. So red herring.
But
this is the problem.
Okay, sorry, George, but just quickly, we need to talk to the council, yeah? We do need to. I know
we've tried to engage with the council, Chris.
All right.
We're not sat away from them. We're sending emails all the time. Don't get Peter Sherlock sends an update to the council, every councillor, and guess how many emails he gets back? Have a guess.
None. Yeah.
None.
So
sorry, George. George was about to speak. John, go on, please.
So,
George.
Billy, you're saying obviously, and we agree. We all agree here that the council will be foolish to stop the progress of the football club, but this is the council would be foolish to lose a cricket and a hockey team and let that facility run down. They'd be foolish to build a road up the road from where the proposed stadium site is that they can't complete because the car salesman won't sell up. This is a foolish council, and it's not a trust issue with like that yourself and Darren. It's a trust issue that the people of Hastings have with the council. Maidstone have had success, but the Maidstone aren't under Hastings Borough Council. They've been useless, particularly with sport. They would stand in the way of the football club progressing because they don't care about sport in the town. They never have. Don't see that changing. And the reason why we're on about this, and John touched on it, getting it in writing. Surely we'd be foolish as a club to go and move somewhere where it's not in writing that we can expand and it's guaranteed, because you don't know who's going to be.
I think you're right, George. I think you're totally right in that sense, because the council for years, decades, have allowed sporting facilities in this town to get worse and worse and worse. The fact that cricket, the most funniest thing about Hornsey at the moment, right? They lost their cricket and the hockey. It's gone out to Rother, and do you know what the cricket pitch is now? The cricket pitch that Hornsey allow the use of what the usage of that is now. They won't allow cricket to be played on there, or cricket or hockey to be played in the AstroTurf. You can only play football on either side.
Yeah, I know the best football that's been played was by Gary and Grant Histed.
I heard.
Week. So, but look, the thing, that's the thing. It's not a, don't take it personally. I think I know that. The reason why, and I think this is where you lose a lot of the fan support for the new stadium as a whole, is leaving something up to the council to agree on a few years later, because the people of the town and the supporters don't trust the council to do it. So there'll be a lot of lost support for the move completely, unless there's that guarantee that it can go to 3,000-4,000 and that development will be made.
I think, George, with that, obviously the outline plan application has been done, but there's a few obstacles that we've got coming our way on the way to actually building this place. Not just with the council, but once you've done that, you've got to satisfy the conditions. You've got to satisfy this. You've got to go and put another app in that kind of covers everything that we've said we'll do and how we'll do it and what have you. It would be in the club's best interest at that point to obviously make sure the capacity is right.
And if they said no?
Then the club can't really continue at step 3, just as a stuck at step 3. You can't. We can't do it.
So what do we do then? What do we do if the council say no?
If the council say no, then
1950 maximum.
If the council turn around and say that, as a club, we have to make a really strong decision about what we do, because ultimately we can't stay at step 3. If we got the opportunity to go up through the leagues, which we're probably in a golden era now, and I believe we can do it in this era, then how can we accept that and do it? And also let down the supporter, let down you as supporters? How can we do that?
What would we do then?
We'd have to find a new solution. Now, like the one solution that no one wants, including myself and all the supporters, and you alluded to it, George, the council is I'm not going to say useless, because there's a couple of them I like, but ultimately they have been useless in areas. But it doesn't seem that hard to get stuff done in Rother. Doesn't seem.
That's an absolute no, though, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is. But
I know it's something we can, you can.
But
I genuinely think the council wouldn't care if the club moved to Rother. They wouldn't care. They'd wave it goodbye.
And that's sad, right? That we're held like hostage by our borough council when other boroughs and other councils will gladly help Hastings United. How sad is that?
Yeah, Billy.
How sad?
Billy, from my point of view, I think we're held hostage by having a kind of one-track mind that we've got to build and sell houses to get a new ground. What would you think if the council came up with a plan to redevelop the pilot field?
It'd be amazing. John, it would be amazing. But you know what? Hasn't happened yet.
But it's never talked about in any plan. There's no. I just think if you hold them to their word and say there's such a lot to redevelop there, there's such a lot of room for a big car park, pitches.
John, how does a council that is 2.5 million in the hole fund our stadium? Redevelopment of the pilot field?
When you think about it, why? You said that
they would argue they would get grants, wouldn't they? There'd be various pots of money what they would say.
Which they promised to put us in. They wanted to put us in a levelling up fund, and that was the big sweetener. And give it a month, and you'll hear the news.
But I think when it comes down to it, if building this new stadium potentially puts us out, ruins our club, we lose our club if they don't agree to this extension. It's kind of a responsibility of a council to lay on facilities for their population. They're the ones that hold the gill. We shouldn't be thinking that we've got to build for the community if it means putting our club out of business.
The club will go out of business anyway, John.
You're losing club anyway.
You think of it logically.
Well,
we
haven't looked into a redevelopment plan of the pilot field and seen what they come up with.
John, to redevelop the pilot field, you would have to find a significant amount of grant money, right? Well,
we haven't even examined it. We have
examined it. We have, as a club, we have looked at the cost of what a redevelopment of the pilot field would be, and it's in the millions, right? It's not it's a significant. Because also you've got to think of, it's not just about putting a new stadium in place, right? We operate right now 400. Right now we operate with probably 350 kids and a men's and women's senior teams, right? And that's with our 23s, 18s as well on top of that, right? There's not any training facilities in this town in the slightest, none, right? We beg, borrow, rehash. We literally make wine out of water at the moment with our situation, and it's not really right, because the fact of the matter is, how can you as a football club progress or be successful if you can't train? Like, we literally, I'm gonna break the fourth wall a little bit here. The first team last year, the first team men's team and the women's trained on a 9-a-side pitch at Buxwood School. That is it. That is it, right? And we managed to win the league, right? And that was because we had nowhere to train. The pitch was getting destroyed. The home pitch, our pilot field pitch, was getting destroyed because we had to use it. And we had nowhere to train, nowhere. So I get redeveloping the pilot field.
Yeah,
right. And in my view, if the money was there to redevelop the pilot field, it'd be amazing, because it's the heritage is there, the history of the club, everything. I love the ground. It's in a tired, horrible state at the moment, but the history there and the feeling on match days and the atmosphere and everything that kind of leads to the place.
I understand that the pilot field had to be kind of, as part of our negotiations with the council, it had to be labelled as dilapidated, etc. But I think a lot of it, like you said earlier, is cosmetic. And I think the other thing is, if the council can see that they should be feeling guilty about what's provided for the town, the kids, you know, all the sports facilities, then they've got an opportunity to kind of rectify that by putting those pitches up on the Firs, by putting the facilities that the town needs. And that's no different than building it up on Tilekiln, except we stay.
How does it get funded? How does it get funded?
Well, they should be thinking about how they fund it anyway. I mean, the other thing they've got
no money. They've got no money to fund anything.
Honestly, though, Billy, if you're not having conversations with them, they're not having conversations with you. Surely,
no, we've had these conversations, Chris. This was before. The reason why the Tilekiln site came about was because it was the most financially obvious way of providing these facilities. It's not about houses on the pilot field. It's not just like, oh, let's get houses on the pilot field and as many as possible and make as much money. Because if anyone believes that, they're so far wrong from the truth. The fact is, the pilot field is run down. It is that the main stand. We've got an inspection on that at the 30th of this month, right? The last one we had, I was told we only had X amount of years left on the stand. He could come back this year and tell me this stand isn't fit for purpose. Now, if the stand's not fit for purpose, we ain't grade C anymore, guys. We're in real trouble. Okay, so
we're painting it Saturday though, aren't we, Billy? So we'll be all right.
Yeah, we'll be all right. But
I mean, I did do some research on the stand. It's because it's a 500+ stand. It means the council inspect it every year, so it has more stringent inspection.
Yeah, we pay for, but John, the council do not inspect it. We pay for an inspection every year, which costs us a lot.
We have to, yes.
Yeah,
but it passes that inspection every year. I understand.
John, it doesn't just pass
to some degree.
John, it doesn't just pass. That's false.
Well, otherwise we wouldn't be in it.
John, it doesn't just pass. It passes with conditions of things that we need to do, and in the thousands to keep it ticking over. Certain things that we have to get fixed, certain things we have to do, certain conditions of how long it's going to stay around for, things that we have to change. There's always work that needs to be done on it. If it was as simple as someone coming in, collecting their grand fee for looking at it and ticking a box and going, that's one thing. That's the money we pay for it. But there's other things that they ask us to do and change. Like it had to have a whole new roof put on it. There's a wind limiter on that. So if we hit a certain level on wind speed, regardless if it feels okay for you lot down there, the game has to be called off. We can't play games of football at a certain point. And it's got close this year twice, or us having to record it and luckily just being under on average and allowing to play the game of football. Now, on other occasions, we would have 1,000 people in the ground and have to say, sorry, the game's off, and refund everyone and let everyone out, even though we've cooked, like all the food's been cooked, the bar's been stocked, all these things that we would lose money. So I want people to be aware the pilot field is not in a great state. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's not. Redevelopment of the pilot field, and I was told this to everyone that asked me, in an ideal world, staying at the pilot field is what we all would want to do, and I would want to do it. It would be amazing. Like selfishly, you'd be a hero for keeping the club at the pilot field because it's the club's ground. But
I think you would, and I do really feel that if we didn't want to buy the ground, why are we buying the ground and building houses on it? To
finance the new stadium, John. There's a £2 million shortfall.
Why don't the council do that?
Because the council won't.
Why wouldn't it's their land. We've got a secure lease on there. The other thing I was going to ask.
They get paid for.